What's going on, gardeners? It's Tuesday, June 28th, and we are at peak sun intensity and pest pressure here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. That's why today I'm going to show you how to build a completely modular greenhouse cover for your raised bed gardens that will protect against frost, against insects, and against harsh UV rays of the sun that you can move and relocate as you wish for year-round gardening. And since it's modular, maybe I'll want to cover this raised bed instead. It's just that simple. Now I will show you how to build it from scratch. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. Here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, we deal with it all. We deal with frost, we deal with freeze, we deal with extreme pest pressure, we deal with extreme sunshine and UV radiation. So I've been looking for a modular solution to protect my raised beds depending on the season and depending on the threat, where I can pick them up and remove them or relocate them to all of my individual beds as I see fit, as well as change out the type of cover that is on it based on whatever the seasonal struggle is that I'm dealing with at the time. So all of my raised beds in my garden are 4 feet wide by 10 feet long. So the modular greenhouse covers that I'm going to be building are going to be based on my unique bed dimensions. So feel free to tailor the materials to fit your exact dimensions of your bed. The materials that I will be using to build my modular greenhouse frame are 7 half-inch by 10 feet long PVC pipes or conduits, 4 half-inch by half-inch by half-inch 90-degree side outlet elbows, 2 half-inch by half-inch by half-inch PVC T-fittings, 2 3/4-inch by 3/4-inch by half-inch PVC T-fittings, 3/4-inch wood screws, electrical tape, and 1 pack of half-inch PVC snap clamps. The first thing you need to do is you need to cut your PVC pipe for the width of your raised beds. And like I said, my raised beds are 48 inches wide, and I made sure to cut my PVC pipe 3 inches longer than that because I need an 1.5 inch play on each side so the modular greenhouse frame will be able to slip over the bed. You can't make it the same width or it will not be able to fully encompass the bed itself. So make sure that you cut everything wider than the width of the bed itself. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to mark the exact midpoint in all of our 10-foot sticks of PVC conduit, and this is important because the midpoint is going to be a critical measurement in all of the pieces, so always make sure to mark the midpoint. Then we are going to select 2 of them to be the length of the frame of the modular greenhouse for our raised beds, and I'm going to cut these in half. And the reason why is, remember, these are 10-foot sticks of conduit and I have 10-foot long raised beds. So they're actually too short for my specific beds. So I need to extend them. So I'm going to place one of these half-inch by half-inch by half-inch tees in order to connect them after I cut them in half, because that is going to, 1, extend the length of the conduit so they're a little bit longer for me, and it's also going to provide an insert for a central support member. Now we're going to use the half-inch by half-inch by half-inch 90-degree side outlet elbows to join the edges of the modular greenhouse frame. Now that the bottom of the frame has been assembled, we need to secure all of these fittings, because if we apply any pressure right now, they'll just pop right out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-drill a hole into each of these individual fittings and then secure it with one of the 3/4-inch wood screws. And now we're going to do the same thing to every one of the fittings on this frame. Remember how we marked the exact center point of our individual conduits? That's because at the center point, we're going to slip on one of these 3/4-inch by 3/4-inch by 1/2 conduit tees, and that is going to provide a structural support member across the top that is going to hold all of the individual hoops together. So we have this placed at our center point. We're going to pre-drill, and then we'll secure it with a screw so it can't go anywhere. Now that the bottom frame has been assembled and secured, we are going to slip the bottom frame over the top of our raised beds. After we've ensured that it fits just perfectly, we're going to start installing the hoops, and we're simply going to take our conduit, insert it into one end, and then bend it and insert the other end into one of the individual 90-degree fittings that are sticking up for us to insert the ends of the conduits. When we insert them, we are going to make sure that the conduit T is facing inward into the greenhouse structure. After everything has been installed, we have to install another support for the lateral bracing of the individual hoop. So one section of the PVC pipe has been installed on the far end. I'm now going to insert it onto the near end, and that is going to provide some bracing to the individual hoops. Now we have to brace the central member, and in previous attempts what I've done is I've actually used electrical tape and I've just tied it in a cross pattern around in order to secure and provide some structural rigidity, but I'm not going to do that this time. I've decided I won't use the electrical tape, and I'm going to use the zip ties again because I think that they're a little bit better of an option. So I'm going to pull the zip ties in a bit of a star pattern. And we want to make sure that the zip tie connection points face inward because we don't want it to tear any of our greenhouse covers. Now that they've been installed, we're just going to cut. Now the one thing that you'll notice is when I was installing the hoops, they appeared to be pre-bent, and that's because I didn't use the full-size 10-foot sticks of PVC pipe that I was using in my initial materials list, because I already had an old hoop house that I tore down and I wanted to reuse the individual pipes. Obviously, if you're building this from scratch, you're going to use new pipes, so you can cut them to any length that you want. If you keep them in the initial 10-foot length, it is going to be the largest possible area underneath your cover. So I used the ones that I already had. They're a little bit shorter because they were cut about 1 foot shorter, but I didn't want to throw them out. Now that they've been fully installed, let's check out the structural rigidity. And check that out. It is fully modular. So now anytime I want, I could just slip this on top of any of my raised bed. Obviously, this would be a lot easier with 2 people, but for the purposes of the video, I just wanted to show you that it is doable. Now let's talk greenhouse covers. When it comes to selecting a cover for your greenhouse or your hoop house structure, what cover you select is probably going to depend on the time of year that it is, and you have many options based on the time of year. For example, if you're in the middle of winter, you'll probably want to use a plastic greenhouse film. If it is, say, the fall or early spring, you may want to use row covers for frost protection, and if it's in the middle of summer like it is right now, then you may want to use either insect netting or shade cloth, depending on whatever you're growing and what your exact problem is. I am going to use insect netting. Now, insect netting obviously will keep the insects off of my plants, but it will also block some of the UV radiation, and while it won't be as effective as a shade cloth, it will lower the UV intensity a bit and protect some of your foliage from burn if you have really intense sun during the summer like I do. I use every one of these types of covers depending on what time of year it is. So if you need a source, I have them all linked in my Amazon storefront link down in the video description. Simply navigate to the greenhouse accessories section, and I have everything that I use in real life linked there for your convenience. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to unbag the insect netting, and I'm going to loosely drape it around the frame of the hoop house in such a way that it will be easy to secure to the structure. Then once it is placed and it's where I want it to be, I'm going to take these 1/2-inch snap clamps that I also have linked in my Amazon storefront under the greenhouse accessories category, and I'm going to use these to secure the insect netting to the structure. Now, it's very important that when you place this cover that you make sure it overhangs all of the PVC structure on each side by several inches, because you need to tuck this cover underneath the PVC to snap it on. So it's important that your cover is a little bit bigger than your overall hoop house frame. So I'm simply going to pick this up and I'm going to attach the snap clamps. So I'm going to first secure this edge, because it's easier to start with the edge and then work your way around the frame. Then once this edge is secured, I'm going to secure the snap clamps around the entire structure. Now the insect netting has been placed, and it took a total of 20 snap clamps in order to secure this well, and I bought a 40 pack right here. So one of these 40 packs is enough for 2 of these hoop houses of this size. So the cover that I bought on purpose was a little bit longer than what I'd need, because I wanted to make sure that it was plenty long enough and that it wouldn't run short on me. So your options here are, you could either cut it to length or you can ball it up like I did. And I chose to ball it up because I may build, say I need a longer length cover in the future. I'd rather just have it balled up like that while I use it for a few months, and have the fully intact cover just in case I ever need a longer one. And it's been on here for a total of only a few minutes, and you can clearly see it's already going to work. I have some pests that are crawling all over the greenhouse cover trying to get back in. Here you can see how the cover is secured at the bottom using the PVC snap clamps. It was very easy. It only took maybe 5 minutes to secure this entire cover, and it looks like that the entire way around. I've experienced in the past with many different types of hoop houses on top of my raised beds. I have experimented with a hinged hoop house that I used on my raised bed all winter long, and I found it to be too heavy and take up too much space, so I discontinued use. Then I built a retractable hoop house as well. I found that to be much easier to manage and much easier to deal with, but because it is basically built into the frame, it is not modular, so you'd have to modify all your raised beds to use it. This I really like because it weighs next to nothing, so anytime you just want to access the contents, you can simply just lift it up to get what's underneath it. And because it's completely modular, let's say that I'm not growing anything in this bed, I can just pick it up and move it to the next bed if I want to grow things in that bed. So this is a great way that you can only really build 3 or 4 of these for a garden like mine, and just pick them up and relocate them as the beds are in use. So I'm not going to have to spend all that money and build it into my structure permanently. I can just move it around as I please all year long, and it only costs, you know, at the time of making this, probably around $40 or $50 to make something like this. Now, I know some of you are going to be very concerned about wind. Many of you may be thinking, if I build a structure like this, is it just going to blow away? Well, believe me, wind is always a concern in the back of my mind, because I live in one of the most tropical storm-prone areas in the entire United States. So I know wind better than just about anybody out there. And the nice thing about this structure right here is that I only build it with around 1 inch or 2 of play on each side of the raised bed. So it's pretty snug there. So it's going to take a pretty significant wind to actually pick it up and launch it. However, if you want additional security, simply buy garden staples like these and just pound them into the ground. They will easily fit around your 1/2 inch PVC. And then I have the garden staples linked in my Amazon storefront as well. You can just put them on the corners, maybe put somewhere like 4 to 8 around the raised bed, pound them in with a rubber mallet if you have wind coming up. Another option is, because the cover is simply clamped on, you can just remove the cover if you know that there is a storm coming. So if you live in a hurricane zone like I do, just remove the cover and toss it in the garage and wait for the storm to pass. And then when the storm is gone, simply come back out and clip it back on. It only takes a few minutes. Overall, I'm really excited with the way that this build came out, and the best part is I will be able to use this all year long for some type of benefit. Once the fall rolls around and the bugs stop, I will be able to remove this insect netting, and I will be able to replace it with a frost cloth, and that will help me grow more cold hardy plants like your lettuces and spinach that are prone to burn in a really bad freeze. So these can stay on my beds, whatever beds I choose to use in rotation, 365 days a year, with some kind of benefit. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. Once again, if you're curious about any of the products that I used in this video to build this, or any of the products that I used in my garden in general, they are all linked down in the video description in the Amazon storefront link. And while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. If there's one thing my buddy Dale loves, it's drinking from the hose. And I know that hose water is not the best water, but he just enjoys it, and it's been cleared out. Come on, buddy. Take your little water fountain drink. so cute when he does this. He enjoys it so much, it's fun to him. Just a little bit, right, buddy? Little bit of water from the hose. He likes this better than the clean water right out of the fridge filter with ice cubes in it. Go figure. Hey, Dale, say hi to everybody. Mr. Handsome.